Well, let's just take a look at our newsmaker of the evening, and it is someone who's made headlines many times in the past. The story that has caught the imagination of just so many people, especially in the startup community. Not so long ago, he sold SIM cards in Odisha, but is now, of course, the founder of one of the country's most well-known internet companies. It's really an honor to have Ritesh Agarwal of OYO Rooms, the founder of OYO Rooms, with us on the program. Ritesh, thank you so much for taking our time. You really are a hard guest to chase. We've been trying to get you for an interview for weeks now, so happy to have you on the program. Now, I've been reading what you've had to say on GST. You've, of course, welcomed it, but to all those who say that, you know, the pricing really for a budget hotel, and we're just going to flash those details there, what GST has for hospitality, and you, of course, stand to win. But there's a lot that the goods and services tax is bringing in for budget hotels. But what about the other big players who seem to sort of be taking pot shots at you? What would you say?
So a few things. First off, Natasha, thank you so much for having me here. As you know, I've always enjoyed being on the show with you. I was there with you for almost a year back, talking together. So thanks for having me here. So clearly, GST is a welcome reform, and you know, while regardless across the hospitality segment there have been mixed views, nobody says that GST as a reform is something that nobody welcomes. All of us, you know, are welcoming GST with open arms. As you know, the budget sector has always had, you know, a huge problem in terms of being a part of the taxation net. Our view is, with fair rates there, a large part of the budget ecosystem, which is the unbranded hotels, will also start coming in the tax net and bring in more revenue in the ecosystem. Coming to your specific question about what about the bigger hotels, I must tell you that the government has actually gone back and has done something specifically for the mid-range hotels to be able to increase the cap from 5,000 hotels to 5,000 rupees per night to 7,500 rupees per night, to ensure that the hospitality industry is solved for. So look, there are going to be teething issues in the initial days. We all understand that, but believe that hospitality industry stands to benefit in the long term from this. Okay.
You know, when you say teething issues, what are the kind of issues that you're looking at, and sort of just the way all founders do? Are you sort of trying to stay one step ahead of the game by already looking for solutions to those problems which perhaps haven't cropped up yet?
Yes, so clearly, you know, we, being in the internet industry, we of course have the opportunity to use technology very rapidly. So the teething issues initially were just ensuring that our large-scale partnerships. So, you know, GST has a magical thing that, you know, I need to ensure all my partners are on GST, and they need to ensure all their partners are on GST. It's a issue to get 7,500 guys live immediately. But I think the government has done a great thing by having the first 2 months as a time period that they've given in terms of laxity. But there are still some issues that exist. So, for example, hospitality industry is the largest contributor in the travel industry to tourism, 7.5% of GDP. We're going to contribute $280 billion in revenue by 2026. But even then, we are probably the only industry where the pre-discounted rate, which is called the, the known tariff, is asked for the GST rate, which is a part of the recent notification. So we are still engaging very closely with the government. We understand that is the right way of finding solutions, where we are explaining to them that why should we be the only industry where this challenge exists.
Okay, as long as there's, of course, communication on, there are, of course, several other sectors who are also in that communication with the government. But let's just take a look at some other aspects apart from GST, now that you are on the program, Station. You know, you went to Kota to study. There was a time in life, perhaps, given your love for coding, that you thought that you would be an engineer. Describe to us what the obsession really, how do you see India's obsession really with getting into the IIT? This is, of course, that time of the year when, again, the entrances make headlines, and again, we see students making it to these institutions, most of them, of course, being left out. But how do you see India's obsession with engineering in particular?
So clearly, you know, one of the things that when I became a TL fellow, one of the contracts that I had to sign, it basically said, I would never let university interfere with my education, which basically means that education exists everywhere. Of course, college campuses are great ways of getting it, but you can have it across. Now, specifically about IITs, I feel they're great places of education, great places of student building. But I also believe that obsession for getting there is probably not the right way. Students should get the opportunity and chance to explore multiple fields, and we are seeing that. We are seeing more students opting for design. We are seeing more students opt for architecture. We are seeing more students opt for civil infrastructure. So I feel that over time, as India's GDP matures, as we see that being a great designer is also okay, being a great artist is also okay, this will reduce. But having said that, I also believe that IITs themselves in the last few years have become very, very liberal comparatively, and hence, 5 years out, I hope the obsession will be much lesser from what it is today.
That, of course, would be good. The point, of course, that you're making that allow them to experiment with other things. We're also seeing lots more boys really take up humanities. But, I'm again starting to run out of time. But just the last few questions, Ritesh. This has been, after 2015, big banner headlines on valuations and the next big founder and the poster boy, poster girl and all of that. The last year and a half have been rather rough. Tell us what it takes to sort of survive in times of turbulence really like this and sort of not just stay afloat, but make the right kind of headlines, get the money and just stay focused on your work. How difficult is it?
So I'll take 30 seconds and share my personal view on it. I have actually a very philosophical view on this. I actually believe that hard times are actually the best times for creating great companies, great countries, great institutions. Imagine all the countries that got a huge beating during the Second World War. China, civil war in the US, each of these countries had huge problems. But I believe the real winners are the ones who go through the bad times and innovate. Imagine America going through the civil war and then coming back with top quality entrepreneurs and being one of the strongest countries in the world. So I actually enjoy tough times. If you see great companies like Facebook and so on were created during the bust, because those are the times when real innovation is appreciated. So last year has been clearly one of the most exciting times for us. We brought most of our innovations last year. We brought our confirmed early check-in, OYO townhouses, which are our self-operated, really fancy hotel brand, which is in the upper mid-market segment. Our economy segment is growing faster than ever before. Leisure travel and weekend travel is growing. So I genuinely believe that a lot of valuation distraction going away and value creation focus coming in is always a good thing for the industry. I think these times come and go, but until you're focused on creating value, companies will continue to do well.
Okay, one last question. What have all the rough times really taught you? What is the one big takeaway that you've learned? What's the one big lesson that you've learned?
So the one big lesson that I've learned is bringing exceptionally sharp, committed, and great team is possibly the most important thing of a company. Most of my leadership team in the last 3 years has stuck together. We probably have the lowest churn rate in the leadership in large internet company segment in India. And we also were recently ranked among the top 10 companies on LinkedIn and #1 in the hospitality segment. So I feel a great team has huge value creations, because those people not only stay together with you on the great days, but in the tough days, you actually come closer together and create magic. So I'm truly thankful to my team for continuing to stay together and delivering what we do always to our guests. So that's one of the best learnings.
Right. One last question before we let you go, which is to all those who sort of watching and want to know, because you're really quite an urban legend. It's always said, like even I said in my introduction, from selling those SIM cards, sleeping on the landings, you didn't want to go home and didn't tell your parents that you hadn't done well in that business, you were struggling, and you did all of that. But to all those sort of watching and sort of, what is the one thing that you took away from those times, or what is the kind of one thing you would say to all India's budding entrepreneurs who want to be in your shoes, or want to create something the way you did?
So, clearly, I think, first, I remember those days as a box of cherries. I can't, stop missing those days. I take some of our colleagues to those early houses that I had to stay in, the Barsati in South Delhi, where, you'd have blisters on your back because of the summers. Those days teach you a lot. They make you humble, they make you real. So the one thing that I tell everyone is that, look, this is the first time in our country when the Prime Minister of our country comes on television and says that starting a new company is okay, and hence families are actually more comfortable than the times when I actually wanted to come in and do it. So go out and do it, and there will be tough times, but persistence and perseverance has huge equity benefits in the long term. So keep at it, and I can tell you that you will do exceptionally well in some way or the other. That's the one thing. I must tell you a story. The reason why we priced our rooms at $999 in the beginning was because I sold Airtel's lifetime prepaid, which was at $999, and I was superstitious that if I sell this at $999 also it will work.
Right. So for them it will work for you, and
so
clearly it did.
Funny and interesting memories from then.
Right, clearly it did. But thanks very much, Ritesh Agarwal, for taking out time there to speak to us. Let's wrap then on that note. See you again tomorrow on Left, Right and Centre at 8. Goodbye, good night.